Princess Leonor live, tears, joy, and shocking moments captured. Spain expected a royal moment. A beautiful ceremony, a historic day, a celebration everyone saw coming. But what nobody expected, what absolutely nobody was prepared for, was the raw emotion that unfolded the moment Princess Leonor stepped into view. Because today wasn't just elegant. It wasn't just royal. It wasn't even just historic. It was something far deeper. It was the day Spain realized that behind the crown, behind the responsibilities, behind the future queen, stood a young woman finally embracing a truth she could no longer hide. And what happened next left millions speechless. But here's the part that nobody saw coming. The tearful moment that changed the mood of the entire ceremony wasn't caused by Leonor herself. And that is where this story begins. From a distance, it looked like a perfect royal day. The music, the crowds, the flags, the excitement. All the elements of a traditional European royal event were in place. Spain tuned in. Denmark tuned in. Half of Europe tuned in. But within seconds, that familiar calm shattered. Something happened that instantly flipped expectations, pulling viewers straight into the most emotional royal scene of the year. Because the first tear that appeared on screen didn't belong to the princess. It belonged to someone standing behind her. Someone whose reaction no one expected. And as that single moment circled the world live, people instantly began asking the same question: what caused that emotional shock? And how did it change everything that followed? To understand this moment fully, we need to back up, just slightly. Moments before Leonor walked in, tension was already building inside the venue. There was a feeling in the air, almost electric, like the room itself knew something was about to happen. Even the royal cameras seemed to linger longer than usual on the faces of her family, as if waiting for a signal. Waiting for a story to break open on its own. And then Leonor appeared. Calm, radiant, poised, the future Queen of Spain walking with a grace that felt almost unreal. But her expression, that was different. There was a softness in her eyes, something unguarded, something almost vulnerable. It was the kind of look that told viewers around the world that today wasn't just a duty. It wasn't just protocol. It was personal. And that's when the first shocking moment happened. As she moved forward, the camera cut to Queen Letizia, who, despite her usual composure, was visibly emotional. Not the polite, controlled royal emotion that audiences are accustomed to. These were real tears, honest tears, a mother's tears. And instantly, millions of viewers leaned in, wondering, what triggered that reaction so early in the ceremony? What had Leonor said or done before stepping in? And was there more happening behind the scenes than Spain had been told? That emotional spark created the first curiosity loop of the day. And what came next only deepened it. Because as Leonor continued walking, her father, King Felipe VI, reacted in a way that stunned everyone. Viewers noticed it immediately. He didn't look at the crowd, or the cameras, or the official setting. His eyes stayed fixed on Leonor, as if he were seeing not just a princess, but the little girl he raised. The girl carrying a future on her shoulders. The girl stepping into history. And for a split second, he blinked hard, holding back tears of his own. And that moment raised a second question: what had these parents experienced behind closed doors leading up to this day? Was there tension, fear, pride, a secret conversation that made this moment heavier than the world knew? But the emotional surprises didn't stop there. The next shock came from the crowd itself. A sudden wave of cheering erupted, louder than expected, louder than protocol usually allows. It didn't sound rehearsed or organized. It sounded heartfelt. It sounded like a nation releasing years of built-up emotion. People weren't just watching a royal event. They were witnessing the rise of their future queen. The turning of a page in Spanish history. The moment everything becomes real. And yet, even with all this emotion, even with the cheers, even with the tears on screen, nothing compared to what was about to unfold. Because when Leonor reached the front and finally lifted her head, the camera caught something that viewers are still replaying today: the small, almost invisible tremble of her hands. Not fear, not nervousness, something deeper, something close to overwhelming. And then, just as people were asking themselves what she was feeling, what she was holding back, the next dramatic twist happened: the entrance of the Danish royal delegation. Their arrival shifted the entire tone. Suddenly the room wasn't just Spanish. It wasn't just royal. It was international. It was political. It was symbolic. And the most intense reactions came when the camera caught Leonor locking eyes with one specific figure. Someone who has been tied to her name in headlines, speculation, and whispers for years. Someone whose presence immediately raised the stakes of the day. Viewers saw it. The world saw it. A micro-expression between them. A flicker of recognition, emotion, and history all at once. And immediately, social media exploded with one question: what does this mean for Leonor? What does it mean for Spain? What does it mean for the future of two royal families that have been intertwined in rumors since Leonor was a teenager? But the story didn't pause. It kept unfolding live, each moment building on the next. Because behind the smiles and the camera flashes, there was tension. Subtle but unmistakable. The type of tension that doesn't come from conflict, but from the weight of destiny. From the realization that life is about to change forever. And then came the moment that no one can stop talking about: Leonor's emotional break. It happened fast, unexpected, unfiltered. As the ceremony reached a key point, Leonor's voice caught, just for a fraction of a second. Her chin trembled, her eyes glossed over, and before she could control it, a single tear escaped. The entire room froze. Millions watching at home froze. Because this wasn't a royal performance. This wasn't a media moment. This was human, real, vulnerable. A future queen showing the world, just for 1 second, that she feels everything. That she carries everything. That she is still, at her core, a young woman navigating a life none of us can truly imagine. But what made the moment even more powerful was what happened after. She didn't wipe the tear immediately. She didn't hide. She didn't break down. She took a deep breath, a steadying breath, and continued. Strong, determined, graceful, and that became the defining image of the entire ceremony. Yet while the world focused on Leonor, another story was building quietly in the background. The cameras didn't catch it cleanly at first, but viewers eventually noticed something unusual: a subtle exchange between members of the Spanish royal household. A message passed, a shift in posture, a sign that something behind the scenes had changed. Something the public wasn't meant to notice. And that detail created another curiosity loop: what information was being exchanged? What needed to be communicated in the middle of a historic live broadcast? What happened that required immediate attention? That silent subplot added suspense to a ceremony already filled with emotion. But the real shock was still to come. Because, just when viewers thought they had seen every emotional twist the day could offer, a dramatic moment unfolded involving someone very close to Leonor, someone who had remained composed up until then. The unexpected happened. Another family member broke down. Not discreetly, not quietly, completely. The tearful reaction instantly became one of the most replayed clips of the broadcast. It revealed a truth that Spain had long suspected but rarely seen so clearly: Leonor's journey has not only shaped her, it has shaped everyone around her. Her growth, her responsibilities, her sacrifices, they all carry ripple effects that the world rarely gets to witness. And that emotional wave led directly into the next major moment, a symbolic gesture from Leonor that left the audience stunned. She turned, looked directly toward a specific section of the room, and nodded. A small nod, simple, but powerful, meaningful, and instantly viewers began to wonder, who was she acknowledging? What did the gesture mean? Was it planned? Was it spontaneous? Was it directed at someone important, or someone personal? The cameras zoomed instantly, trying to catch the answer. And what they captured opened yet another curiosity loop. Because it wasn't directed toward the dignitaries. Not toward officials. Not toward the Danish delegation. It was directed toward someone unexpected. Someone whose presence raises more questions than answers. Someone whose identity the royal household has never openly discussed. And from that moment forward, the story no longer felt like a typical royal event. It felt like a layered emotional journey, one filled with subtle signals, hidden history, and moments that reveal the complex world beneath the crown. And for the next several minutes, Spain watched as layer after layer peeled back. The ceremony moved forward, but the emotional energy stayed intense. Every expression, every glance, every breath seemed charged with meaning. Viewers described it as the most human royal event Spain has ever seen. And then came the moment that solidified the ceremony as unforgettable, Leonor's final address. Her voice, steady but full of emotion, carried through the hall. She spoke about responsibility, about unity, about the journey ahead. But beneath her words, you could hear something deeper, something personal, her heart speaking through the future queen. And it brought Spain to tears. The speech wasn't long. It didn't need to be. It was raw, honest, and delivered with a maturity that reminded everyone exactly why she is destined for the throne. But even then, even during the speech, viewers noticed something fascinating. Reactions from different members of the royal families didn't match. Some looked proud, some looked emotional, some looked tense, and one person looked deeply moved, almost shaken. And once again, the world asked, why? By the time the ceremony concluded, Spain had witnessed more emotion, more depth, more humanity than in any royal event of recent years. But there was one last moment, one final shock, that left the entire country buzzing. As the event ended, the cameras accidentally caught a private exchange. A brief, unplanned interaction between Leonor and a person whose relationship to her has remained the subject of quiet speculation. It was quick, too quick to decode fully, but powerful enough to raise the biggest question of the day. What is really happening in Princess Leonor's life beyond what the crown allows the public to see? And that question is exactly why this ceremony is still being replayed, analyzed, and discussed across Spain and beyond. It wasn't just tears. It wasn't just joy. It wasn't just shocking moments. It was the moment Spain saw Princess Leonor not just as the future queen, but as a young woman stepping into her destiny with courage, vulnerability, and heart, live, unfiltered, and unforgettable.